Hi, I'm Jim Fielding, and welcome to Jim Fielding and Friends, a podcast where we explore what it truly means to live and lead with authenticity, kindness, and impact. Each episode brings together leaders who inspire me, people who lead with heart, break barriers, and redefine success. If you're looking for honest, insightful, and thought-provoking conversations, pull up a chair. Let's talk.
We can choose who we love. Nobody's letting go. Chosen family.
Hi, everyone. Hello, beautiful and kind human beings. I'm so excited to invite you to this combo episode and welcome you to this combo episode of Jim Fielding and Friends podcast, but really highlighting the Leading with Pride book club at alstora.com. I am thrilled because my guest today is our September 2025 book selection. It is an amazing book. I'm going to hold it up. It's behind our author too, but How to Breathe While Suffocating, a story of overcoming addiction, recovering from trauma, and healing my soul. And we are joined by the incredible author, Bruce Brackett. Bruce, welcome to Jim Fielding and Friends. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's so good to see you. And hello to all of the listeners. It is wonderful to spend this time and energy with you. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you.
I love it. So I want to tell our audience how Bruce and I met, because it's been very important to me that everybody I have on the podcast, and frankly, every book I feature in the book club, I have a personal connection to. I'm old school. I still like in real life. I love virtual. Bruce and I are recording virtually today. But a couple weeks ago, we met for the first time in person, and it was amazing. The energy was amazing. And we met because we're both John Wiley and Son authors. I had found Bruce's book before I realized it was a John Wiley book, but then it made sense to me that it was a Wiley book because we actually share an executive editor. And Bruce and I were invited to speak at Wiley and Son's Pride event for their employee resource group. And we had an agenda, we had a pre-call, and we basically forgot what the agenda was. And so but it was amazing. And we got so many great comments. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have the book in the book club. I already knew the book was going to be in the book club, but I was like, I have to do this podcast. And Bruce and I were both so grateful to be in community and in conversation during Pride Month with a corporation. But yeah, so that's how we met. So I want our listener, my listeners, our audience to know it's real. We have an authentic connection. I didn't just find him. I didn't just find him on the internet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, now we can say that officially we are friends and have met and have very similar meanings and worries and goals moving forward. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think our books, while different, do share some similarities. And what I love is we have a generational difference too. And I've talked a lot about that in other podcasts and in my writings. Being a lifelong learner and staying constantly curious. As I was meeting you in person, having read your book and following you on Instagram, we'll talk about that. If you don't follow Bruce, you're like missing out on something. But it's joy personified. But I also love that our stories, while similar, are also very different because of how we were brought up and our generational difference, our age difference. So Bruce, why don't you tell our listeners, tell us your quick bio and your story to kick this off.
Sure. So my name is Bruce W. Brackett. I was raised in Montana, and I was introduced to musical theater and dance and really just sparked this dream of being on Broadway. So when I was 18, I moved to New York City. I was born into detox from drugs and alcohol. So that was a struggle that I still continue to struggle with, even though I am in active sobriety. I moved to New York City at 18 years old to pursue my dreams, but also reintroduce myself to my addictions. And I mean, you name it, meth, heroin, lots of other substances, alcoholism. Addiction is addiction across the board. That's what I've learned and am learning and understanding. So it doesn't matter the substance. What matters is what I choose to do with that. So I have entered this world of positivity after the pandemic. I think we all really hit rock bottom. And yes, moving to New York City, I did get the success of being in an off-Broadway show, which is where I met my partner. The pandemic hit, we moved to the Poconos, and I I was like, something has to give here. I can't stay in this negative mind space and just be stuck. So my bubbly personality was like, okay, well, I'm going to try something a little bit new. If it's not working, change it. And my partner encouraged me to make a TikTok account and to post time-lapse videos of me painting my portraits as a Renaissance person, as I guess you could say. I do everything, portrait painting and whatnot. So I did. And although I thought it was the dumbest idea, I was like, why would I ever do that? And I'm so grateful I did, because it grew and evolved, and it allowed me to start to show up as an advocate overcoming from mental health, trauma, addiction, a goal of mine that I've always wanted to have. And it just grew and grew, and people related to the positivity and that desire to have a more positive life for themselves. And through social media and the rapid growth that I was so blessed with, John Wiley and Sons found me and offered me a life-changing opportunity to share my story through the book How to Breathe While Suffocating. And it's just been one mountain climb after the other. I don't like to use the word failures, but lessons, and being able to evolve and grow. It's just a ride that has been amazing. I would like to preface that I know nothing about life. I don't know anything about I don't know anything. I'm just on this ride with you, and I am loving it.
I think that is such a perfect introduction for people who don't know you. And it's so funny you say that. And we both said that in our talk too. Like, we are not marriage and family therapists. We are not psychologists. We are not psychiatrists. We're not even addiction specialists. You're an addiction specialist, having gone through the recovery process. I was raised in an alcoholic household and was married to an addict. So I kind of gone the addiction and recovery route more from the
The other
Al-Anon
side.
side, the other
Yeah.
side, right? The Al-Anon side and the partner side. But we both are always like these caveats, because I think what's happened to both of us is, as we've been on this journey, people come up to us and they share our story, their stories with us, which is
Yes.
heartwarming. But talk about that, because I saw it happen even at that event we were together in New York. Like, people they're so drawn to you that they share really intimate, vulnerable stories with you.
Yeah, yeah, and it really is a blessing. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me in my perspective and in my responsibility for what it is that I'm very passionate about doing. And to be able to have the opportunity to be so raw and naked and vulnerable within my book, and to put it out there into the world, to have others come back to me with their experience and their struggles, I
Mm-hmm.
am floored every single time. And I am so grateful for that moment of human connection and their rawness and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability and honesty. And quite frankly, I'm always a little bit shocked that their book hasn't come out yet. And I'm like, when is your story coming out? Because oh my gosh,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and it can be we're human, and sometimes we just aren't in that space, in that mindset where we can listen to someone else. And as someone, I guess people can say that I'm a little bit of a public figure, and I
Mhm.
I have come across that, out in public where someone happened to recognize me and come up and they do share, and it can be a lot, but it always brings me back to being grateful and realizing that the purpose of my mission is working.
I love that. So when Wiley contacted you, like, did you did you always plan on writing a book, or you're like, oh, I have a book in me because Wiley told me I have a book in me? Like what was that thought process like?
I had always had a dream of writing a book, of being a
Okay.
motivational speaker, of being some type of positive change in the world.
Mhm.
And younger Bruce thought it was going to be done through way of Broadway. And
Mm.
I eventually got to off Broadway, and
Mhm.
there was something that wasn't connecting, and it didn't feel necessarily right because of politic issues behind the scenes of the performance
Mhm.
art world that we don't need to go into. But that I eventually, through my activism on social media, that's what stemmed, oh, I can be a motivational speaker this way. I think I found
Mm.
my voice this way. And then that grew. So I always had that dream of writing my book. I especially after reading books like A Child Called It and The Lost Boy and A Man Named
Mhm.
Dave by Dave Pesler, I I was like, wow, that's my story. I I can do that eventually one day.
Mhm.
And then, 18, 19, 20, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But instead, I'm going to smoke a bunch of meth and see where that goes. So that didn't take me anywhere. That put that dream up on a shelf collecting dust. And I'm just so grateful because entering into sobriety, the wildest dreams that I didn't even realize were meant for me have entered my life and came true. So Janine, shout out to my wonderful
Yes.
our wonderful
Our
Janine,
Janine, yes.
who just saw this video of me sharing the positivity and the light and the growth of how simple it is for a poppy seed flower to grow out of the cement. I was filming in San Francisco, and she happens to be based in San Francisco, and she saw that video and reached out to me over email offering me an opportunity. Have you ever considered writing a book? And I thought it was a scam. I didn't think it was real. And my partner, Teo, he was like, "No, that's from Wiley. That's absolutely
Yeah,
real.
they're
You need,
legit. They're
yeah,
legit.
yeah,
Yeah.
you need to respond to that immediately." And a few days later, we were in a conference call, and I think 2 weeks after that, I signed my contract.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, shout out to Janine. We'll just keep saying that.
Yeah, we love
Because
you.
we love you, Janine, because yeah, she found you, she found me. She's absolutely Wiley is very lucky to have her because she's absolutely the kind of editor where she's got her eyes and ears open all the time.
Yes.
And to see that video. How long did it take you to write? Like, what was your how long did it? Okay, you signed the deal, and then how long did it take you to write
So I was halfway through the
the
book at
book?
that time, and like I said, I actually started writing my story out when I was 18 years old when I first moved to New York City, and of course addiction, distraction and everything put that
Right.
that dream away. But over the period of 14 years, I would very briefly come back to it. And I honestly, my family on TikTok and Instagram, huge shout out to you guys. I love you. You were a huge inspiration and a huge motivation for me to follow through with that. And thank you for keeping me accountable for that, because I honestly don't know where that would have
Mm.
ended up, and it doesn't matter because it ended up where it ended up, and that's with
Mhm.
their support. So I was halfway through, and when I got that email, I just simply replied. I was like, well, I'm actually halfway through writing a book. So yeah. And then after I signed the contract, that fire was turned into a bonfire, and
Mhm.
I was just writing constantly. days, even weeks, writing until 3, 4 in the morning,
Right.
just getting it out. And
Out. Yeah.
yeah, within a few months after after signing the contract, the book went into editing and publication, and
Oh my God.
the
You're
production
Janine's,
of it.
you're Janine's dream. You are like that. Yeah, but you had half of it done. I mean, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
I
because
did.
I had a treatment done. So I was at a much different starting point. So I felt that, um, I definitely felt that sense of urgency when I signed the deal. And
Yeah.
then Janine, God bless her, and the Wiley team moved my deadlines up 6 months because they wanted to get me out kind of before the election cycle. And I, being a first time author, was like, sure, like, like I can deliver 6 months earlier. Sure, I can.
Immediate
Yeah,
panic.
exactly. And like, but it's did you? Yeah, and it sounds like you and I are similar. Like you wrote when it struck you, right? Like you just like if you were in the writing mode, you wrote,
Yep.
right? Like you didn't schedule the writing. Because I
No.
get asked
Yeah.
that a lot. I tried to schedule the writing and I couldn't. Like I had to write when it struck.
Yes, absolutely. I really find that to be across the board with a lot of things in life.
Mhm.
If it is not natural, authentic, and supposed to be in that moment, you really can't force it. And if you force it, it ends up coming out like crap anyway. So,
No, for sure.
like,
It's
um,
true.
so what about you? All pride, no ego.
Mhm.
What was the journey for you like with like what stemmed
Well, I mean,
that
that's what
dream?
I mean, that's what struck me. Like I hadn't been writing it my whole life, but I had been a journaler. And so again, during the pandemic, looking for things basically to do, right? Like I was living in California, as I say to people, like California did the pandemic. Like it was lockdown. Like it
Yes.
was, and so I had a lot of time by myself, with the dogs. And what basically happened is I got in this kind of like Marie Kondo, I'm going to clean my life thing. Like I was cleaning out closets. And on one of the sacred masked Target runs, I bought plastic tubs because I thought I need to organize my journals. That was like on my to do list. Like I'm a very to do list kind of person. And as I was getting the journals, which I probably started when I was like 13, and gathering them, I started reading them and not cover to cover, but started flipping through them. And it was interesting because honestly, Bruce, like I didn't recognize some of the stories, right? Like because I was 54 at the time when I started that. And so, I mean, 13, 14, 16-year-old Jim, I I didn't really remember him. Like I didn't remember some of those
Yeah.
stories, but also, and I think this is similar to when I read your book, it was
Wow.
also that was a traumatic time in my life. And so I think I had blocked some of those memories, right? Like
Oh, absolutely.
because there was the bullying stories and the self-loathing stories and the depression stories. And so I think I had just like I almost didn't recognize him, right? And so just the process of like gathering the journals and getting them in one place, I started writing not with the intent of I'm going to write a book and sell a book. It was more of like a cathartic exercise, right? It was more of like a form of therapy for me
Yes.
and people had said to me, Jim, it feels like you have a book in you, particularly, and I think they meant more from like a leadership standpoint because I had worked at Disney and I had worked at DreamWorks and I think a lot of people, honestly, Bruce, wanted like a Disney tell-all book, right? Because I had been Disney 12 years. I think they wanted the Disney dirt. And I was like, I'm not writing the Disney dirt. Like I'm like Disney, like it was good to me. I had good stories, bad stories, but overall it was good. And one of the things, so basically what happened was I started writing and then I literally Googled like, what's a book treatment? Like what's in a book treatment, right? Like what? And wrote like a book treatment. And then I knew people in the publishing industry, including my best friend Amanda, who you met, Amanda Miller,
Yeah.
Amanda Miller Freeberg. And I sent her the book treatment, and she's more in like art and architecture and design. So she's not really in, our genre. But she called me, she said, Jim, this is really good. And I said, Amanda, don't say that because we've known each other since we were 13. Like, I really want. And she's like, fine. She's like,
don't
fine.
fluff my
Right.
pillows.
Don't blow smoke. Right.
Yeah.
And she said, fine, if you don't believe me, send it. Here's other names to send it. People I didn't know. But she's like, and everybody was working. It was the pandemic. So everybody was working remotely. Right. And I think that honestly helped, Bruce, because people were looking for something to do. Right. And so I sent it to other people besides Wiley, because I was like, okay, wait a minute. I don't want her, to have a bias. And she had given me Janine's name. Janine was one person I sent it to, but I also sent it to like Wiley's competitors. I won't name them on the call, but, and I got a lot of positive feedback from other sources. And then that made me believe, okay, there's something here. And then what I loved about Janine and Shannon, because we have to give a shout out to Shannon too, is when I was going through the process of deciding who to do it with, Shannon's the one who really gave me the unlock on, listen, I had a 12-page treatment. Like, I didn't really know how I was going to turn that into a 240-page book, right?
Yeah.
And she gave me the unlock and said, first off, they never asked me for a Disney tell-all book, which thumbs up to Wiley because other people did. And then she said, I want you to write the book that 25-year-old Jim wished he would have had. Like, I want 54-year-old Jim to write a book to 25-year-old Jim. Yeah. And when she gave me that permission to basically write a book to myself, right? Like this very selfish.
A love story.
Yeah. And write. And literally she said, I want you to write. She gave me homework. She's like, think of 15 life and leadership lessons that you know now that you wish you would have known at 25. Right. Yeah. And that really became the format for the book. And there's not 15 in the book. They kind of got edited down to 10 and, some of them got combined. But that gave me, like, that was the unlock, to their credit. And that's what editors do, by the way. You know that, Bruce, right? Like, they gave me the unlock. And then the thing about that type of book, I didn't have to write it in order because it isn't really autobiographical. There's a ton of autobiographical elements in it and stories. But if I felt like writing on lesson 3, which is don't let anyone dim your light, I would write on lesson 3. If I felt like writing on lesson 9, which was selfish is not a bad word, I would write on that lesson. And then at the end, I kind of put it all together and kind of wrote the in-between parts, if you know what I mean. Like, the connectors.
Right. Yeah.
And my whole thing was, whether it got published or not, whether it sold or not, when I turned it in and it was going to press, I literally looked in the mirror and was like, that's enough. You know what I mean? I was like, that was such a cathartic exercise for me. And
that was the goal.
Like, it was therapy, to be honest. It was therapy. It was a process of forgiveness, forgiving people in my life, forgiving myself. And I had about 15 or 20 early readers. It's something like, for other authors who may be listening to this, or pending authors, like, early readers, also known as truth tellers, are really important in a process that, like, I went through, where people who knew the story and they were from different parts of my life, some of them know the stories, some of them didn't know the stories, would read chapters and tell me if they liked them or not, right? Or if they felt I had gone deep enough. And probably my most important early reader was my sister, because I knew if I was going to share my story, I also meant I was sharing her story. Mm-hmm. Even though they're different, but if I was going to expose some family things and secrets, quote, I needed her to be on board with that. So she read the whole book. Like, she was one of the readers who read. The other people read parts. But I loved the process. I mean, I love the process so much. I'm writing more books now, right? Like, and I also said, like, when I was done, okay, that's done. That's enough. I also was like, this might be the only book you ever write, right? Like, it's not like I all of a sudden thought of myself as an author, right? It was like, that was a project, that was one piece of the puzzle. And it really, for me, was a side hustle. Like, I was working full time, as an advisor and a consultant while I was doing it. And I never thought it could become a full time um,
Never in my wildest
passion,
dreams.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I get asked that question a lot. Did you see yourself becoming an author? And
Yeah.
I really relate to that, Jim, of just saying, I have this story in me. I need to get it out of me. Put it on paper. It doesn't matter if it gets published. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
people read it. What needs to happen is that process of self-forgiveness, discovering self-worth, discovering that I have gone through many, many different hard things. For those of you, by the way, who do pick up the book and read it, trigger warning across the board. I understand that the title might sound like it is a self-help book, and in some way it is. However, it is very memoir. I do share a lot of deeply personal and
Mhm.
vulnerable and traumatic experiences that I did go through. And I also relate to what you said about your, sharing family secrets, or if you're sharing your story,
Mhm.
there are other people's stories that were involved that impacted your story. And I find that really beautiful that you were able to have a family member that knew that side of things, that was able to go through and be like, well, actually, I remember it this way, or this is
Mhm.
really good. And I did not. I love my family. I love my sisters, but they really shied away from
Mhm.
it. So the whole book, I really had to be careful sharing it solely from my own memory and my own experience. I changed people's names.
Mm.
I made sure that it was my story, and I left very little of their story
Mm.
um within the book, and I left a
Right.
large majority of it out of the book. And I mean, I even had one sister that did not grow up with. She was not adopted with us. But she is mentioned in one sentence. Her name is changed. And while I was going through the earlier stages of writing the book, I was asking everyone, do I have your permission? Do you want your name changed?
Mhm.
Do you want to be in this? Don't you want to be in this?
Mhm.
And this one particular sister uh, reached out to Wiley and threatened to sue if she was in any way involved. So I hinted at the fact that there was another sister, and dropped that story and moved on,
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no. I mean, well, and honestly, I think if my sister, by the way, she asked me to make edits. She definitely did. Like,
mhm,
and 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 her two major edits actually made the book better, to her credit. Like, and but I remember having the thought process when she told me her edits. And at first I was kind of like, like, wait a minute. Like, again, it's my story. Like, you're the younger sister. Like, you weren't fully aware of what was going on in these particular stories. But okay, I'm going to take your perspective, to your point, right? And I wasn't changing names. I was like using her name. So, but honestly, I think the two sections that she had me work on were better after I took her feedback, right? And so, and I think when you talk about a journey of forgiveness, there really was no forgiveness that she and I had to give each other. We've been super close our whole lives, but she said, I learned so much going through this with you, right? Things that I again, she had blocked out, things that she wasn't aware of. And part of it, especially the early years, I was trying to shield her from my mom's addiction. And so she doesn't remember some of the stories because I was like putting her in her room and putting music on and giving her dolls to play with, right? Because I
yeah.
knew I knew there was a storm coming. And so I would say to her, well, of course you don't remember that day because I was like, in my mind, I was doing my job, right? I was being the older brother and shielding her from it. But I think we're closer. We were close before. I think we're closer today, having gone through it, and just having her be part of the process. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it was healing in a lot of ways. It was healing a lot. So what's been your biggest surprise on this journey? Like now that you put it out there, like what's been the biggest surprise?
That is a really good question. I am normally never speechless.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised. Yes.
Yeah, I think that there've been a lot of surprises. I was surprised that it did so well. I was
Mhm,
surprised that people really resonated with
mhm,
the material within the book, even though, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, you and I have very similar upbringings in a completely different way. Same
mhm,
life experiences in a completely different way, from different eyes,
mhm,
from different mindsets, from different generational perspectives. And to be able to, I think the book tour was something that absolutely blew my mind. And the amount
mhm,
of people that did show up and shared their own stories with me, or their favorite part of my story that made them
mhm,
aware of something that they weren't aware of before for themselves. And
mhm.
which, again, to recap, of my goal was just to get the book out, get it out of me, it doesn't matter who picks it up. Well, it ended up mattering who picked it up. And
Mhm,
that really humbled me in
mhm,
such a way that I will forever hold. And I think that that was something that I was really scared to do. I didn't know who was going to show up, the book tour, what was going to
oh yeah.
happen, and it really really surprised me in such a beautiful way. And then immediately after the book tour, I signed my second contract with Wiley, and now that book is in editing. That's
Mhm.
done. That one I banged that book out like nobody's business. Which, by the way, it comes out in spring of 2026. So just
Woo!
keep an
Could
eye
be
out.
book club. Two. You could be the first author with two books in the book club. Okay,
Well,
I'm writing
goals.
that down. Goals, goals. I'm
Yes.
writing that down. I'm writing that down. I knew it was coming. I didn't know the date though. Okay, so writing that down. I wrote that down.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming very soon, and I'm so excited. I love eh, How to Breathe While Suffocating. My
Mm-hmm.
my my first book. I love it. I am so grateful I did it. I am so freaking excited about this second book. It is so much different than
Mm-hmm.
my first book. Yes, there are memoir
Mm-hmm.
storytelling throughout the book, but it is so deep in self help of how do you face adversity within yourself and from outside sources. When panic attacks happen, how do you overcome and think or view about your own failures, and how do you step past that? And there's so many different elements of my journey, going through 30 years of trauma therapy, of which I am still in, going through 12-step programs, of which I am still in, inpatient, outpatient rehabs, all of the counselors, all of the therapists, all of the doctors, the psych wards, you name it, all of these experiences that I have gone through and that I have learned from professionals or people like you who
Mm-hmm.
have come before me to teach me and allow me these lessons that I'm taking through my life so that I can pass it on to others. That is honestly, that's the joy of living, is to be able
Unbelievable.
to do that. So I put all of that. It's like putting all of my social media content into one book, and
Yeah.
I'm just so excited about it. And of course, when you sign a contract with a publisher, they give you a certain amount of words that you need to
Yeah.
fulfill. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, okay, I'll probably hit the limit of 50,000 words.
Yeah.
And, it might go over. My first book, I turned it in at almost 90,000 words, and a lot was edited down. I was like, okay, well, that's going to go in the second book. And then with the second book, I was like, oh, maybe actually my vision has changed, and this one really should just be self-help and sharing my own experience, strength, and
Mm.
hope, and what I learned, and pass that on. And again, because I can't shut up and I can't stop writing, I turned it in, and it was close to almost 80,000 words. So there's going to be a lot that's taken out and edited down, and that's just part of the
But I was
process.
going to say, that'll make it the best it can be, right? I
Absolutely.
think that's, to me, what I love about working with an editor, again, working with a really reputable publishing house, and like, you have smart people around you who really help you get to the back. I mean, it's so funny, Bruce, because I did the same thing. Like, I signed the contract, and I had to do 55,000 words, and they basically told me, write like 60 to 65,000, because we're going to edit X%. And I never even Googled how many pages is that, right? Like, I never even what, how big is the 65,000 word count? And then when I got the contract, I was like, oh God, that's like a 220 or 240 page book. Like, what did you just sign up for? Right. Because I was basically taking journal entries, right? You're taking social media. I was taking journal entries and trying to turn them into life and leadership lessons. And again, like, those moments of panic, but out of the moments of panic came some of I think, my best writing, right?
Yeah.
Because I just was like, okay, we got to go for it. And it's funny, back to my early reader list, the book is more vulnerable. My book is more vulnerable and more raw because they told me to go there. Like,
Yeah.
there was people who were reading, including my sister again, who said, if you're going to go there, right? Like, don't sanitize it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're going to go, because we were there, we were watching, right? And it was particularly interesting because I wrote about my divorce, because I was so proud of the fact that our community got the right to marry, and then I got married, and then got divorced, not really by my choice. They kind of forgot to tell us when we were fighting for the right to marry that we were also getting the right to divorce, right? Like, they forget that part, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it was interesting because two of my really, really best friends, guy friends, who happened to be cisgender heterosexual men, were reading the book, and they in that particular section, they were like, you got to go back in and tell that story, because it was so funny. They're like, you feel guilty and you feel like you're taking 100% of the blame for the divorce. Tell the story of why the divorce happened, because that's going to help people.
Absolutely.
And that's where, in connection to your story, that's where addiction came in again, right? Because my ex-husband had an addiction problem, and I went through 5 recoveries with him, and he couldn't stay sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I was repeating patterns, as you know, from the work you've done. I was repeating patterns from my mom, right? And I was like on caretaker overload, right? And caregiver overload. And caregiver ended up equaling enabler in a lot of ways, right? And so, but I was shocked when they gave me that feedback. But again, that part of the book, that section of the book, which is under one of the leadership lessons and life lessons, really resonates with people, because um, relationships and addiction, and that is just such a common. I think that was one of my surprises, is when you're writing your story, you think, I'm so unique, this is my story. And then you go out on that book tour and you meet 50 people who are like, you wrote my story, right? And you're like, where were you? Because I told you when we met in New York, I literally thought I was the only gay kid in Toledo, Ohio. Like, I literally thought, stupid me, in like the 70s and 80s, I thought I was the only gay kid. I was the only one that felt that way. I was the only one who was having this angst and this bullying and everything else. And meeting people even from my hometown who are like, who knew me back then, and were like, I was gay too. And I'm like, you were? Like, why didn't we why didn't we have the vocabulary? Why didn't we have the discussion then? Right. And I think about, for me, that's why I wrote the book, because I was like, I think there's other little gay Jimmys out there, right? And there's people like little Bruce who actually, it's not like they still don't have to go through their own journey and their own pain. You know what I'm saying, Bruce? But maybe our work can make it a little bit easier, right? Maybe it can make it, or at least they'll know where the resources are, or they won't feel so alone. Because
Yeah.
I think your book grabbed me. I mean, the first sentence of your preface, just to remind you, I'm sure you remember, is, have you ever felt like you don't fit the mold? Right. And when I read that, I opened up the book and read that first line, and I was like, I couldn't put it down, because I was like, hello, I spent my whole life feeling like I didn't fit a mold. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the universality, universally, that's what people are reacting to in your book. Is I was shocked how many people in the world felt different and marginalized and unseen and unappreciated. And to me, that's about finding community. I think that's what you and I bonded over, is we're finding community.
Absolutely.
Because I know in your journey, because I read your book, there was times that you felt alone.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you find your people, you find your chosen family, you find your tribe, you find your community. I mean, my God, it's so exciting. All right, I'm watching our time because I want to be cognizant of what we're doing. So we're good. We have 5 or 10 more minutes. But what, like, going back to the first book, going back to How to Breathe While Suffocating, like, what's the 1 or 2 biggest lessons that you want the listeners to take out of that? Like, I want everybody to read the book or listen to the book cover to cover, but what are the 1 or 2 big lessons you want them to take away from the book?
That is such an important question. Number 1, you were not alone. Like you said, you were also not unique in the situation that you may be facing. That does not mean that the situation that you were facing is less than. Your experience is real. So number 1 would be that you were not alone and that you can survive this journey that you were going on. And the only reason why I know that is because you're here, you're listening. So you've already survived 100% of everything to get to this moment right now. You can get through this too. And I think that the second important thing that people can really take away from the book is, no matter what it is that you have done in your life, no matter what it is that you have experienced from other people doing to you in your life, no matter what you've said, no matter how you feel about yourself, you're allowed self-forgiveness. You're allowed to love yourself, and you are allowed a very beautiful life when you keep moving forward. And if you keep moving forward, so much good is coming your way. I don't know how many times I've said that to so many people, but it is the truth. And the only reason why I know that is because I've seen other people do it, and then I apply that and I do that for myself. And it's working. It is working when you keep moving forward. So no matter what you've done, you are allowed to forgive yourself and love yourself and have a better life for yourself.
Oh my God, Bruce, you got like your Oprah moment. I got the tears. You got the tears because, you know, and it's funny. I mean, a funny flip way of that. Like, I'm a RuPaul fan. We talked about that. I'm a Drag Race fan. I'm a RuPaul fan. And RuPaul is one of the co-founders of Allstora, where my book club is. But, you know, they end every episode of Drag Race saying, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love anyone else? And I think when I read your book and what you just said, and I think of the journey in my book, is it's a journey to self-love again. It's a journey to self-acceptance. It's a journey to forgiveness. And I think that's why I resonated so much with your book, because, and I didn't realize as I was writing the book, I didn't realize I was writing a book to forgive myself, right? And to accept myself unconditionally. And that if I couldn't accept my authenticity and my story fully and embrace it as the gift that it was, I was never going to have healthy relationships. I was never going to have healthy friendships. I was never going to feel like I had work-life balance and all that stuff that that you talk about, because I had been hanging on to self-loathing, self-hatred so long.
And that's so important, and that is a form of sick thinking. And
Yes.
how are we going to, you'll you will never be able to have healthy thinking with the thinking that kept you sick. And it is,
I love it. Well, again, using language, stinking thinking, right?
yeah.
I was a dry drunk, right? Like I learned all that in Al-Anon, right? Like I was in these groups because I was supporting a partner and my mother. And then I'm like, they're using these terms. I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. Like I'm a dry drunk. Like I'm living in a negative spiral. It's so interesting you say that you brought that up, because, and I learned the term stinking thinking in 12 steps. Because for anybody who's listening or watching, people that have not gone through a 12-step program, if you go through Al-Anon, it's the same 12 steps as the addict is going through in AA or NA or whatever they're recovering from. And
Yes.
so you learn the same 12 steps, and you learn there's slight nuances to them, but you learn a lot of those same terms. And
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up too, because in my second book I talk a lot about that. I mean, it's a part of the journey of that period of my life that I'm writing about in the second book. And it's really important for people to realize, from the Al-Anon side of things, from the person who is watching someone go through active addiction, you're both in recovery. You're both in I mean, they're in recovery for their addiction, and they're trying to learn how to be sober. When the person that is watching that person go through addiction, you're not just watching them go through addiction, you are experiencing it, and it is fully affecting you as well. And you are on your own healing journey through that. And I have found that the only way, especially if you're in a relationship, coexisting relationship, whatever it is, romance or just friendship, when you're both working your program, that is when you're successfully able to move forward together. If one of you is not, it's the unfortunate truth, but it will falter.
Amen. That's gold. Print, cut. People, write that part down if you write anything else down. Okay, Bruce, where can our listeners and viewers find you? How can they connect with you?
Everywhere. Yes, everywhere. On social media, I am bwb.positivity on all platforms. I'm verified on all platforms, so look for that blue check, because unfortunately there are a ton of impersonators out there. So it's bwb.positivity with a verified check mark. My website is bwbart.com, where you can find out more information about my motivational speaking, life coaching sessions that I provide, art, and keep a lookout for the second book.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for letting me make the book. Again, the September 2025 selection for the Leading with Pride book club at Alstora. Thank you for being you, and for being positive and joyous, and your little daily doses of inspiration I love very much. And I am so, so grateful that the world and John Wiley and Sons brought us together.
Me too.
This has been amazing, and I can't wait for the second book, and hopefully the book club keeps going. And like I said, you can be our first second time author.
I would love that. And can we also make it a goal that for the second book, when that happens, that we can do this recording in person?
Yes. I'm putting you down. Yes. Yes, because
I will come to you.
I know we will. We have to. Well, first off, by then we might as well just book like a 3-hour session and maybe we'll do it like reclining. You know what I mean? Like I think it will feel so therapeutic. We might have like soft pink light. Like we'll make it it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. No, what I really also want to do, I want to go out. This is the other thing I'm putting out in the atmosphere. I want to go out and do speaking together again. Like I want to be out in community again.
I would love that. Yes.
And figuring out, I'm not putting myself on your book tour. Please hear that. But I'm saying I want to do it again because that was such a special experience. And I love the crowd we did it for, the virtual crowd and the physical crowd we did it for. I want to do more of that because that feeling was really strong.
It was so real and so beautiful.
So real. Natural,
I agree.
Unscripted. It was like Bruce and Jim unplugged, and that was fun. So
we might need our own talk show. I don't know.
It would start with you doing your high kicks and some fabulous shoes.
Yes.
And me just laughing and smiling, but we'll do it. Again, thank you, Bruce. Thank you for writing this book, sharing your story, and we will chat soon.
Thanks, Jim. This was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you leave a review, subscribe, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you soon.
Choose who we love. Nobody's letting